Hi, I'm Maureen Calamia of Luminous Spaces Feng Shui.
And I'm Josh Heath. I'm the lodge at Woodloch's Naturalist.
And we thank you so much for joining us today in this forest bathing experience. But first, before we start talking about the water element, I'd like to suggest that you look back to the introduction video if you haven't watched it already. There's a link below in the description, and we will see you back. But for the rest of you who are embarking on this journey right now, Josh and I have collaborated several times on forest bathing walks at the lodge at Woodloch, and I bring in information on the 5 elements of Eastern philosophy, and we enjoyed them so much that we wanted to bring that experience to you today. So thank you again. So now I'm going to hand it off to Josh to talk about the water element invitation right now.
Hey, folks. So we're going to talk about water. Water is a really important part of what forest bathing is. I think whether it's a babbling brook or a waterfall or a still body of water like a lake. We have a lake at the lodge that I used to use all the time in my walks. And then the lodge continued to get busy and the lake was a little busy. And so I kind of went a little further into the forest, and now I use some small seasonal streams and the outlet to our lake that provide that water experience. However, you don't always have to go to water. You can bring water to you. I think that's a powerful part of this experience. There's a lot of connections that you can do with water, whether it's moving water or whether it's water that you bring. So water is a huge part of a lot of our religious cultures as well. So think about the connection between you and water in your daily lives. Take just a moment to make any connections that you have if you can't physically go to a water spot. If you are at a water spot, I encourage you to make a physical connection with that water, whether it's your feet or your hands. I love taking my shoes off and throwing my feet in the lake from the dock. It's probably my favorite water experience at the lodge. That way, my feet are in the water and I can kind of just sit there and gaze into the water. So I encourage you to take those few minutes wherever you are to kind of just connect with the water in whatever way you're the most comfortable with, whether it's a finger or a palm or your whole hand or your feet. If you can walk in, if you're comfortable, you recite, go to your ankles. What is that? What do you feel? What do you notice? Those are things that I've asked a lot. If you're sitting, like I often do on the dock, close your eyes and allow your other experiences, those other senses, to make a connection. What do you hear? What do you notice? What do you feel? And then after you've taken those few minutes, you can journal those thoughts, you can journal that experience, or you can do a share. We've talked a lot about sharing in these videos. As we alluded to last time, Maureen picked up for me because I forgot to say it. You don't have to share. There's never a must. It's always an option. Nothing sometimes is just as powerful as something. And like I just alluded to, I think journaling is a great experience if that works for you. I did an incredible water journaling experience in Colorado a couple of years ago, where I was asked to introduce myself to something of a more than a human world. And I picked the stream, the mountain stream that ran through the park where I was. And we had a great conversation back and forth, a little dialogue, which obviously is a lot of my own internal thoughts that come through as that other message being presented to me. So those are a lot of ways that you never know what you're going to get from water. Water is a crazy experience. Sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's not so positive. I don't ever want to say negative because that's not true. And take those moments and figure out what the message is in the water. So welcome back. We're going to do our share now, and I'll start this time. And I think for me, water, I was just saying, there's many connections that you can have with water. And I think for me, just listening, I think is the largest part of water that gets me every time. I love running water. I love babbling streams. I love brooks. Down here in Pennsylvania, they call them creeks. I'm still not used to that. Being a Maine boy, it's a brook. I don't know if I'll ever get used to the word creek. But these sounds, they're a time traveler for me. So when I interact with streams or waterfalls or any kind of moving body of water, small or large, I go back to spending my entire childhood fishing with my dad. That was our kind of outside time that we would do. My mom would get home from work and he would take us out of the house after dinner to kind of give her a little space in the house. Now, as an adult, I know exactly what that was. As a kid, I had no idea. I just got to go play in this little streams and brooks, and we catch wild trout, and we just spend a few half an hour, 45 minutes outside. And I think looking at it now as a professional, those are some great connections that I had as a child, that wonder and that curiosity and falling in the brook. And of course I got yelled at because now my shoes are wet, but that's, you learn as you grow up, that's just part of it. That's part of being a kid. And I feel like whenever I hear that sound, it's an easy place for me to kind of just time travel back to, are those experiences in those small Western mountain streams. And it was, now I know there's so much more learning that's going on. When you're a kid, you're just playing, you're just outside, you're fishing, you're spending time with your dad. But as you grow older, those experiences are great lessons that you have. And I think, that's my swimming lesson too. I wanted to go fishing on my own as a teenager, and he's like, you can't go until you know how to swim. And I said, oh, I know how to swim. I know how to swim. And so we're walking down this pretty good sized stream, and he just pushes me in. And I come up, I'm sputtering, saying words I probably shouldn't say. And I get up, I climb up over the bank, and I'm like, what was that for? And he's like, well, you said you could swim. You think you really plan on falling in? You never know when you're going to fall in. Now I know you can really swim. You can go on your own. And so I think that's just the power of this element, is the time travel, the reflections that you have, where it takes you, and just listening. It's amazing what you can do if you listen.
Oh, that's so beautiful, Josh. I mean, so many important points that you brought up about water, because water carries information. It carries a lot of energy and energizes us. And in my share, I was actually drinking from my Woodloch bottle. And this is my connection today because I don't have a body of water near me. And it's just the beautiful, like, smoothness of that water as I was, drinking it and swallowing it and just feeling the coolness of it in my throat, and nourishing my body with all the nutrients and the refreshment that it gives is so lovely. And I was even realizing that the water element is connected to the brain very simply. We've had a lot of rain here, I think we were talking about before in another video. And so the ground is pretty saturated, and it's good because this is the year we need April showers, right? And so the ground is full of water right now, and it's just so refreshing. So some of the qualities of water, well, I love there's that Messages of Water, Dr. Masaru Emoto, I think is his name, where he froze crystals of water and he looked at them in a microscope. And when when water was exposed to loving sounds or healing words such as prayer, they create these beautiful, perfectly formed crystals. And when it is exposed to negative sounds and terrible, words and tone of voice, the crystals form really ugly, and they're not really formed into crystals. So it just reminds us that our body is 70% water, roughly, and that our bodies react to it just like water in this cup. So beautiful sounds, beautiful loving words will create more harmony within our bodies, and that we have to be really mindful of is how we use water in our lives. And water is the ability to go within, go deep. It is the most yin of all the elements, opposite fire, which is the most yang of all the elements. And it is, when we're around water, we tend to be still and reflective. And yes, we can look into that pond or that lake. We can see the reflection of the sky. So it really bounces back at us what we need to see. And water flows, right? So it's the ability to flow in our lives, which is a wonderful lesson for all of us. And I always like to say to clients and my students that water is the most unappreciated element, I think, of the five elements. Our society is wood and fire, which are more yang and action oriented and doing, where water is to just be still and to reflect. So hopefully in this time, we can learn from the lessons of water to just be rather than do. And water is the season of winter, as well as the time of day where, the sun is gone. So it's the middle of the night, midnight. It's about creativity, imagination, and playfulness. So think about playing in the waterfall or the stream. It's also about being independent, being able to be alone and being okay with it. In fact, maybe even enjoying time alone, which again is so opposite of what our culture tends to be. And if we can tap into this element through sounds, like Josh was saying in his experience, having maybe background music with ocean or a trickling water fountain near you, is such a great way to connect with the water element. So
fountains, you mentioned that. I mean, as you know, when you walk in the main lobby of the lodge, we have two fountains going all the time. There's a lot to that. They sell, you can buy all kinds I have a battery operated one that I keep in my office, so you can turn it on when you want to and turn it off. And so I think there's a lot of ways that we can incorporate water into our spaces, into our lives, that doesn't have to be building a pond or creating a waterfall in the backyard. Just simply adding a fountain to your garden and having that, when you water your plants, you just fill the fountain back up and you get recycles. It adds that ions to your space when you're out there as well. So there's a lot of different ways that we can incorporate water into our daily lives, whether it's drinking it or whether it's listening to it, or taking a shower.
Oh, yes. I wanted to bring that up too for the listeners, that taking a bath or shower is another wonderful way to connect to the water element in our homes. And it is so, of course, it's cleansing in a physical way, but it is cleansing in a mental, emotional, and spiritual way as well, as long as we do it with intention. It's just wonderful to connect with. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, having an experience with the water element. And if you would like to learn more about your true nature element, you can visit my website at luminous-spaces.com. There's a link below, and you can take the What is Your True Nature quiz. And how can they connect with the Lodge at Woodloch?
So you can go to our social media pages, you can go to our website, thelodgeatwoodloch.com. There's links to the social media pages on that as well. And there's a lot of information on that webpage. Right now, we're doing a lot of blogs, so you can look through the blog spot and kind of find one. There's a couple that I've done recently on different parts of forest bathing, how to bring it home. I mean, that's really the big push right now, is trying to get folks to do this when they can't physically come and join us or come and join a walk with us. If you're looking at future stays, you can always go to our plan your stay part of our website, and that'll give you more information on when we do forest bathing. We typically do it a couple of times a week, so we try to spread it out, so no matter when you come to the lodge, you can kind of sneak it into your schedule. And then I offer some specials too, either in the evening or night during certain months of the year.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today.
Thank you.